Hello and welcome to episode 3 of Thumbnail Roast, where I roast my subscribers' thumbnails. By the way, I have a new form now to get roasted, linked in the description. I just had a lot of people submitting their channel over and over again, so this should fix that with this new form linked in the description. Plus, to fill out the Thumbnail Roast form, you will also be added to my newsletter. Alright, before we get into it, I just want to quickly mention my course is finally out. It is my thumbnail design course. It is 1 hour about how to write the perfect YouTube title and 1 hour all about thumbnail design. Again, there's a link in the description. Alright, let's get into roasting my subscribers' thumbnails. Alright, so here we have the first channel. It's Ashley Hale UK. I often like to just check out the popular videos first. Okay, so you have a 672,000 view video. That's pretty cool. 89,000, 56,000. So you have a few outliers which are really crushing it. This won't be the major takeaway, but just a quick thing to mention. You have the subscribe button here and like your logo and stuff. Stuff like that is not the right way to do it. See, a lot of people make this mistake where they treat thumbnails like a billboard and they have like a call to action in there. I see this more commonly with companies posting on YouTube rather than creators. Don't have a subscribe button, don't have your logo in the thumbnail. That's not the place for it. People will not convert to subscribing to your channel because they saw your thumbnail. They will subscribe if they like your video. So your goal with the thumbnail is to get them to click. But that won't be the takeaway here for this channel, you know, and still you have the subscribe button here and you got 49,000 views on that video. So that's pretty cool. So you're doing something in a lot of these thumbnails here, which is quite common for people who have channels in a very, very specific niche. So obviously this here is a very specific niche. It's, you know, you driving a truck or a HGV. I don't even know what that means, to be honest. But you driving a HGV, I'm actually going to look that up. HGV, heavy goods vehicle. Okay, so here's the mistake you're making. I'm going to presume that you're not selling anything. And your goal isn't to convert people into buying a product like a digital product or a physical goods product. I'm presuming your channel's goal is to make money from ad sets, in which case you want to get as many views as possible. And what happens is when you have a niche like HGV, which is a very niche and very specific topic that you're talking about, what you want to do is get as many people interested in that as possible. And the mistake you're making here with a lot of these thumbnails is you're using language and you're using scenarios that only someone who already knows what HGV means and is already like a truck driver or at least interested in that, only that very specific group of people would be interested in these videos. So something like, think you can handle loading this machine. I don't know what a roll roundabout is. I don't know what CPC changes is. You know, for me, that means cost per click in marketing, which I presume is not the topic of that video. So you're using a lot of these industry terms here. And when you use industry terms, what happens is you limit the amount of people who can view that video to only the people who understand what that term means. Because, you know, I'm not going to click on a video called CPC changes because I don't know what CPC changes means. And I don't know what a roll roundabout is. Now, if we don't look at the ones where you use very specific language, but we look at something like this, it's carnage, watch me block an entire village with my truck. That is a video that could get a ton of views. That could easily get 1 million views. Anyone could watch a video where a truck manages to block off an entire village and no one can get through. So it's a very mass appeal video. The problem is, from this thumbnail here, I can't tell that that's the premise of the video. And with a video premise like this, that's extremely mass appeal, you have to do a really good job of explaining the premise visually. So let's jump into Camera Draw here, or you can do this on a piece of paper, and we are going to play the Caveman game, which is a game that I invented to help with thumbnail design. And it's actually the first step that you're going to do when designing a thumbnail. See, what happens is when you open up YouTube, your eyes are just scanning the page very, very quickly and trying to decipher just from the thumbnail what these video topics are about. And the brain's not going to bother reading all of these titles because, you know, that would be a lot of reading. So it's just looking at the thumbnails alone. It's trying to decipher what are these videos about purely from the thumbnails. So what we're going to do here is draw out the premise. So this here is going to be my village. It looks something like that. And then obviously we need your truck. So let's say that this here is your truck. And we'll have you blocking the main road here. That's my car, by the way. We'll have you blocking the main road here so no one can actually drive past. So the text you chose here is "It's Carnage," which I don't think is the right text to choose here. Maybe like gridlock or something? Because now it's a lot more obvious what this premise is. We have you in the truck causing gridlock, and here's all the cars in the village that can't get through. And now you have a much better understanding of what should go in the thumbnail. And that's why we start with the caveman game. By the way, the reason I call it the caveman game is because if a caveman had to try and get a piece of information across or tell a story, they would draw stuff on the cave wall, and that would be purely through visuals with mainly icons. So if you can't draw this story here, if you can't draw the premise with only icons, then there's no point of jumping into Photoshop or going through the video trying to find a screenshot. The first step that you want to look at is what should go in the thumbnail. And I just don't think that this thumbnail here tells that story very obviously without having to read the text here. Not to say that screenshots can't work, by the way. Screenshots can be extremely effective thumbnails, but this screenshot here doesn't even look that busy. Like, it looks like a normal stream. So it doesn't look like carnage. It just looks like a normal street. Whilst editing, I just jumped into Photoshop. Here's a design that took me like 2 minutes, but something like this would accurately describe the premise. All right, that was Ashley Hale UK. Well done, mate. You're doing very well. Let's have a look at the next channel. All right, this next channel here is very large. They have 3.6 million subscribers, and they want my opinion. Let's look at these thumbnails here. So even though they have a ton of subscribers, I actually don't know who they are, to be honest. I just don't watch any gaming stuff whatsoever. 8-hour and 50-minute video. That is a long video. Okay, so these are obviously incredible thumbnails, and they wouldn't have close to 4 million subscribers if they weren't good at thumbnails. But there is one thing here that I think is worth mentioning. So I don't know who they are, and I think that's going to be helpful for this piece of advice. They have this logo here in pretty much every thumbnail. This logo doesn't mean anything to me because I don't know who you are. So the only people who will recognize the logo are already fans. But the fans will recognize this thumbnail style because it's a very unique and distinct thumbnail style. So they'll be clicking on this thumbnail because they like the premise of the video and because, you know, they recognize the style and they know the creator, so they're more likely to click. But someone like me who doesn't know who they are, I'm not going to click because of this logo. So we have two scenarios here. Someone who doesn't know who they are, they don't recognize the logo, so they're not going to click because of the logo. Or you're going to have someone who does know who they are, but they're going to recognize it from the thumbnail style, not from the logo. So for this channel here, you're obviously crushing it. The only thing I would consider A/B testing is the logo. Is this logo necessary? And does it actually have a big impact on CTR and AVD? Well done, you're doing amazing. Okay, let's have a look at the next one. Dr. Matt Shibber. Okay, so helping coaches grow content paid ad systems. Cool. So I'm presuming here that you are making your money from a service, not mainly from AdSense, which is cool. That's not a problem. So scrolling through this, let's have a look at your most popular. Your most popular, 73,000 views. That's awesome. How to make Twitter posts for Instagram. Okay, cool. I feel like you are switching thumbnail style a lot here. They all look very, very different from one another. I don't think that's a massive problem, but it's still worth saying. This channel here is a really good case study in understanding how you make money from your channel, basically. Like I mentioned before with Ashley, I'm presuming the majority of the monetization comes from AdSense, unless you do have a product or service. But with Matt here, I'm presuming the monetization comes from a service or maybe a high-ticket product, in which case you don't need many views, but you do need your views to be your exact target audience. So what I would do here is just kind of write down who your avatar is. Okay, I'm going to guess 30 years old. I'm going to guess male. Majority of my audience is male. I'm going to guess majority of yours is male. I'm going to presume they're making a decent income. All of this stuff here you would actually, find out and not just guess. By the way, you can find quite a lot of good data in YouTube Studio, but for me, when I started this channel, I really wanted to understand who's watching, so I just created a Google form asking some questions, and I got a ton of responses, which helped me a lot with this channel. And I think this will help a lot with your thumbnail design, because some thumbnails, like this one here, it kind of looks like one of those thumbnails, targeting teenagers, like here's how to make your first $1,000 online, stuff like that. It's kind of in that style. But that's not your target audience. Your target audience is a lot more sophisticated than, an 18-year-old trying to learn how to make their first dollar online. So I would consider trying to make it just look a bit more sophisticated. Like these two last ones here are really good at that. Like this here looks a lot more professional and they just kind of seem more relevant to your target audience. One last thing that I'll say for this channel here is this thumbnail, and this thumbnail here. You're making a mistake that, and this one here. You're making a mistake here that's really common with small channels. See, when we're designing a thumbnail, we are really up close in Canva or Photoshop or whatever you're using. And because of that, we get to see all of these small details. However, when you look at this thumbnail here and you zoom out, you can't even tell what any of this text says. Or when you zoom out of this one, I can't tell what's going on the computer screen. And that's why, again, we want to start with the caveman game. Are there some icons that would do a better job of explaining this premise here instead of what you're doing here with these thumbnails? It's just too much going on, and a brain is seeing it in 0.001 seconds and trying to decipher what's happening. And these thumbnails here, I just don't understand what's going on. And if you don't understand what's going on very quickly, you're just going to scroll past, meaning you won't click, which means you're going to have a very low CTR, which stands for click-through rate. So I actually redesigned this one as well. So it's about Instagram ads, and Instagram has a very easy icon to use. It's just the logo. So here's the redesign. It's very obvious now that, hey, this is a course about Instagram ads. You can understand that in a split second. All right, let's have a look at the last channel. If I haven't gone through your channel, again, there's a link in the description to the new form. If you fill that out, hopefully I will roast you in the next episode. Just so you know, there are so many people filling out these forms. And instead of doing 10-second reviews, which isn't very useful, instead, I just think it's better to do really deep audits of a few channels because the information will be relevant for most people watching. All right, this next channel here has 186,000 subscribers. So they are clearly very well-designed thumbnails. I don't know what language this is, but that is okay because it actually helps with thumbnail design reviews. Because when we see a video come up on our YouTube home feed or whatever, we are meant to understand what that video is about purely from the thumbnail. If we have to read the title to understand the premise, then I just don't believe that it's a very good thumbnail. All right, because I don't know what this says, let's use that as an advantage. I'm going to guess what this premise here is. I don't know what character this is. I'm presuming it's from a PlayStation game because you are holding what looks like a PlayStation controller or an Xbox controller. So I'm going to say this is top 10. Oh, it says Monster Hunter here. Okay, top 10 Monster Hunter characters. That's my guess for this premise. All right, I'll translate this video title. All right, the actual title is I Never Understood Monster Hunter Until Wilds. So if that is an accurate translation, I don't believe that this thumbnail here is getting that across. The number 10 here is making me think that this is like a top 10 video. And if it is, then that should also match the title. So you understand yeah, what I thought the thumbnail was is actually the video. Now, I've never played Monster Hunter, so I don't recognize this character. I'm presuming if you've played Monster Hunter, you will recognize this character. But a thing that you could do is maybe look for characters that are a bit more recognizable. I'm pretty sure Monster Hunter is dragons. So maybe having a dragon in the thumbnail would make it more obvious to someone like me who might be interested in buying Monster Hunter, but I just don't recognize these characters, and having the one you recognize the most in the thumbnail. Again, my thumbnail design course is now finally out. There's a link in the description. I've taken absolutely everything I know about thumbnail design and just tried to compress it into the most succinct course possible. And if you're a fan of this channel, you know I don't give advice like use the glow effect and all of that stuff. It covers the psychology and the strategy behind thumbnail design. Again, check it out. There's a link in the description. If you're new here, check out episode 2 of Thumbnail Roast, this video here. Thanks so much for watching. Click on this one. Thanks.